Good morning. We made it. It is Friday on Daybreak. Last day. Then it's supposed to be a nice weekend. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We are glad you're here. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie's on vacation. She'll be back with us next, Monday, next week already. The week has gone pretty quick, I think. 855-75-CIVIC is how you get a hold of us. 855-752-4842. You can call, you can text, and be nice to Parker. He's the tech producer. He answers the phone. And if you're nice to him, you get to me. Jamie's not here, but Frank and Parker are here. They are our production team and my faithful sidekicks this week, which has been a lot of fun. Frank, the other day, you used this program for narrowcasting, for personal reasons. You're like the insider trading of radio advice. You use the show to get advice, and you got really good advice the other day about a bachelor party, and you come to us again, hat in hand, to sometimes I feel, because for those of you who aren't on the stream, you can't see, I am, I hate to say much older than Parker and Frank, but I have more life experience than Parker and Frank.
Yeah,
because I'm much older.
Yeah, you're seasoned. Yeah,
I'm seasoned. I'm seasoned, like an old car that keeps breaking down on the side of the road.
If it makes you feel better, I feel much older than Parker.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's stages on this show. There's generations we have, because Jamie falls between you and I, Frank.
Right.
So we have people on the show of all ages. But sometimes you guys, it's fun to watch you go through certain things in your life that I did a while ago that I'm like, oh, I remember having to go through this. And we are back with Parker. Never has anything to do because he lives at home and he lives a pretty simple life, pretty simple
luxurious,
Amish-inspired life,
pampered life.
Yes, he is in that sweet spot between being an adult and actually having to be an adult.
Parker, stay there as long as you can.
Yeah, dude, milk it.
As long as you can.
I know socially it's not acceptable for a grown man to be living with his parents. I know that. I know that chicks don't dig it.
See there, yeah.
You want to come back to my bedroom?
You got to be quiet. My mom and dad are still up.
They're
watching
in the morning.
AMC. We got to be quiet. Don't interrupt
I get up
my
earlier
dad's
than my dad. I'm not worried about their sleep. I'm worried about my sleep.
Well, that's another thing.
Wow. All right. All right. Well, then. You cannot bring women or men. You can't bring anybody romantic home when you live with your parents.
No, it is not the coolest feeling.
And you're praying for your parents to go out to dinner so that you can sneak somebody in, but then you can't concentrate because you're listening for the car to pull into the driveway, and then you got to
out the window, quick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's more impressive if you do.
If you bring them home to your parents' house?
Yeah, and if they're cool with that, yeah. That's impressive.
I mean, I see what you're getting at here, Frank.
No.
I can rest assured that's not my mental state.
No, it wouldn't be mine either, Parker. Frank's got Frank's got some philosophies I don't cotton to. It's
That's fine.
Just have mom and dad listening outside the door. Frank doesn't care. He's tearing it up. He's grunting. He's making noise. Not even tell the girls to be quiet. He's just ripping it up. And then he just walks out in his underpants to get a glass of water from the sink. Mom, Dad, what's shaking?
Look, I'm picturing Will Ferrell's character from Wedding Crashers.
Yes. Or Old School.
That's the dream.
I'm picturing Frank the Tank. Literally.
That's me.
I know. Well, good for you. Everybody,
Thank you.
Parker, you can try it out. Try Frank's method. See if it works.
Just try it out.
Just try it out.
Take advice from me.
Yeah. I would say bring somebody home the night before Mother's Day. So on Mother's Day morning, you walk out like that.
There you go.
Grab yourself a cup of coffee. Mom, happy Mother's Day. Keep it down. Round 2 coming up.
Report back.
Yeah. All right, but Frank, you need more advice from our friends and listeners.
So here's the deal. I'm having to be an adult, unlike Parker. We need a new car, my wife and I. So we've been going to dealerships. We've been driving around. But I need advice on how to get the best deal. So 855-752-4842 or 855-75 Civic. Please give me your advice on what I should do at the dealership to get the best deal. Now, here's the thing. We are going to lease a car, so I don't know what the differences are. Like, do I still have to play the game? Is my question. I don't know. I would imagine. I don't want to play the game.
No, and I'm with you. Now, full disclosure, my car is 13 years old. My wife bought a car last year because her old car got stolen, but I didn't go with. She just said, "Oh, I found this car online." I looked at she asked me some advice, on different cars beforehand, but she was like, "I'm going to go." She was off and down. "I'm going to go and do it myself." So I don't know if she got a good deal or not. I don't know. She's bought her last 2 cars by herself, where she just.
What does that say? That she doesn't want you there?
No, it's not. Well,
Brian, do you want to come with? Do you want to be a part of this car buying experience?
Do I? Like, are you asking me in general, or are you playing the part of my wife?
You want to come with me?
With you?
Yeah,
not a chance.
Why? You didn't get this experience. You seem left out.
I'm still no. I'm still scarred from 13 years ago when I bought my car. She was with me when because we bought that car. There was a time, one day, when I was working overnights, I got home from work, I went to bed, she had a red Kia Soul in the garage. I woke up, she had a green Kia Soul in the garage. I was like, what happened?
She went back to back on the hamster cars?
She loves a hamster car. My daughter drives a hamster car.
Really?
I gotta be honest. Even when I was at my heaviest, those cars are surprisingly roomy. Like shockingly roomy, Frank. I know they don't look like they should be, but man, oh man.
No, I've been inside them. They're nice.
Then as I shrunk, they just don't have any get up and go.
No, they don't.
But they're fun little cars, and there's a lot of room. Good morning, Greg from Waukesha. Glad to see you. They've got a surprising amount of storage room. But anyway, we're starting to get some feedback. So let's take our first piece of advice. It's from Cindy, who's in Appleton. Cindy, what do you have for Frank? Thanks. Good morning.
Well, first of all, just when you go in there, just be honest with them and say, I don't want to play games. I want you to give me the best deal you can give me. There's lots of other people I can go see if you don't treat me right. So
right.
Be right up front straight with them. And then if you lease a car, know that you have limited miles that you can use for that lease.
Right.
So make sure you're not going to be going over, and then that car has to go back almost in the same exact condition you got it in. So just know that. But I think leasing's not a bad way to go. That's what I'm going to do with my next car. I want a new car, can't afford the payments, but you can get some pretty reasonable leases and then buy the car out after the lease is over. So.
Right. And that's the thing, Cindy. Like, I don't want my monthly payment being like $800-900, which apparently, looking on TikTok, that is the average car payment for people that are buying nowadays.
They're buying above their means, Frank. That's the problem. Cindy, that was good advice. Thank you for the
Cindy.
call. We
Always
appreciate
appreciate you.
Yeah, that was it. So that is good. Be upfront, I guess, is good. Oh, wow. Greg wants you to hire him to be your limo driver, Frank. Then you don't need a car. He has a perfect driving record, and he's totally blind. You like to live on the edge, Frank. Get yourself a blind limo driver.
Greg, you're hired. Congratulations. You get to drive into downtown Chicago 2 days a week.
And zip around. That'll be fun. So, yeah, see, now, Cindy brought up a point I hadn't thought of, that you have to return the car in pristine conditions. Now, you live in the city.
Yep.
I would be terrified every day. And I'm sure there's insurance. I'm sure that there's all kinds of coverage that you can get. But I would be terrified that someone, would ding my car at the grocery store or, back into me in a parking lot and then take off. And I'm like, oh, now I'm on the hook with this car that I don't even own.
I mean...
And I could be overreacting. If you've leased cars before,
Brian,
give us a, tell us. What's the deal, Frank?
We've talked about bad luck before.
Yeah.
And you and I are in the same boat where we have no luck whatsoever.
Correct.
We have a dark cloud that follows us everywhere we go.
I am bad luck schleprock.
Yes. My parents use that same reference. Here's the deal. I expect this to happen to me at least once.
Okay.
it's expectations, right? I know something stupid is going to happen to this car. However, I still need one.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go ahead and get it. I can't be scared of it. It's
Don't
going
be
to
scared.
happen.
Oh, yeah. Lynn texts in from Golden Valley. You can too. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Once again, Frank has come to us for your advice. So help a brother out. Lynn says, I bought a dealer loaner with 3,000 miles, got a $4,000 discount. It's legally new. It's my work commute car, so a two-wheel drive Ford for $14,000. That's a good deal. I never thought of that, their loaner cars and stuff. My next one is not going to be brand new. My last car was brand new off the lot. It was one of those, I bought it at the end of the model year, got good deals. I love my car. But my next one's going to be like 2 or 3 years old. Just you save so much money just in that model year. You know, even if you wait and you get the last year's model year, you're doing good. But I got to look into leasing. I got to see what this is all about. Frank.
And you can choose to buy it once your lease is up.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
now, do they change the cost? Do they knock off what you've been paying so far on the lease?
I believe so.
Okay.
But it's a lot of people, if you go over your miles a lot too, instead of just paying like the fine or whatever you want to call it, the penalty fee.
Right.
They'll be like, well, you can just buy this car, because that's what happened to my wife's last car. Was she was way over on miles because we had a 2-hour commute every day.
Oh God.
And they were like, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think you should just buy this. I think you're stuck with this car.
I mean, yeah.
But I hate this car. I wanted to do it.
Which is basically exactly what she said. She served us well. I think her days are up today.
Wow. All right.
Dang.
Well, it's exciting. There's not too many things more exciting than buying a car. Buying your first house is the same, but the house is more daunting because you realize once you sign that, once you sign that on that line and you see where it says what you will have paid over the time of your mortgage, that you go, there's no way I can make that much money in my lifetime. That's insanity.
That sounds like a number that I don't think I'll ever be able to meet.
Well, yes, you're of the generation, and most of us, it's. Here's the thing.
No, I mean in general, that's a
I know
big number.
Well, you picked
especially
radio.
now.
You picked radio. That's a mistake.
Well, that too.
When all houses are like $500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You used to be able to get what they call a starter home. Now a starter home costs a bazillion.
So everybody Brian's age just became slumlords and bought everything.
Man, I wish I had done that.
What gives, Brian?
Again, I picked radio too, Parker. So, all right, when we come back, would you consider dual citizenship? And if so, what country would you want to become a citizen of? I'll tell you why I'm asking you that and more. It's Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. It's the Civic Media Network. Good morning. Glad you are here with us. It is Friday. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak. As the man said, Jamie will be back with us on Monday. We have muddled through the week, and we are on our way. We're trying to get Frank some advice on buying his car and advice on leasing. So if you want to text that in, feel free. He's constantly monitoring the texts and writing things down. You guys helped him out a lot earlier in the week, so I know you can do it again today. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Also use that number to answer these questions. Would you consider or have you considered dual citizenship? And if so, what country would you want to be a dual citizen of? And that comes up a lot. It's usually, you hear a lot of celebrities and people say that during election times. Oh, if so-and-so wins, I'm moving to another country. Well, to be a dual citizen, you don't have to move to another country. You just have the opportunity to do so if things get to a point where you are willing to become an expat of the United States. The reason I bring this up is millions of Americans could be already dual citizens and not know it, because Canada, despite them not wanting to be our 51st state, which rude, wouldn't you say, Parker? Very rude of a sovereign nation not to want to be absorbed by us.
Why wouldn't you want to be an American?
Well, you've been our upstairs neighbor for a long time, so you know what's going on down here. I wouldn't want any part of this either. It'd be like if you lived next door to, well, I don't want to generalize, but let's just say a less than ideal neighbor. Let's say you had a less than ideal neighbor.
Not the kind
who was always arguing, who was always starting trouble.
You can always hear them playing the drums in the basement.
Oh, they're in the basement with their drums. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Well, millions more Americans might qualify for dual Canadian citizenship under a recent change to Canada's requirements that has led to a surge in applications from its southern neighbor. Oh, yeah, people are like, we got to get out. I don't know if you've noticed it. We got to get out of here. Since the new law took effect in December, immigration lawyers in the U.S. and Canada say they've been overwhelmed by clients seeking help submitting proof of citizenship applications. Driven by politics, family heritage, job opportunities, and other factors, thousands of Americans are exploring whether the easier process makes it the right time now to get that dual citizenship. An immigration attorney at Boundary Bay Law in Bellingham, Washington, said his practice is pretty much flooded with this. We kind of shifted a lot of other work away in order to push these cases through. So what is this new law? Well, Canada's has been changing its citizenship laws for decades, whether to update historic interpretations of law or to address discrimination issues. Previously, Canadian citizenship by descent could only be passed down to one generation from a parent to a child. But the new law opened up citizenship to anyone born before that date who could prove they have a direct Canadian ancestor, a grandparent, great-grandparent, or even a more distant ancestor. So if you think anybody in your family may have been born in Canada, now is the time. This is the time. Get that dual citizenship if you want. Now, I've started the process of getting a dual citizenship with Ireland. And it is, you got to jump through a number of hoops, but because my grandparents all came from there, my grandparents were born there, so I am eligible right away. And then once I get it, after 5 years, then my wife and daughter would be eligible too. So I started the process, then COVID hit, and then they put a stop on all of that, and now it's back up. And, I'm trying to work. I know a guy, Parker. Yeah. I know a guy, so I'm trying to work a few angles to try to move my process through faster. But anyway, if you were born on or after December 15th, you need to show that they're Canadian. Wait a second. Yeah, anybody else. Those born on or after December 15th. So if you have a baby, you're not a baby, so you don't need to really know this. But if you're born now, if your kid is born now, they have to prove that you lived in Canada for 1,095 days. If you were born before December 15th, you can go way back. It could be your great aunt, and you're in. Under the new law, descendants of Canadians are already considered citizens, but must provide proof to obtain a certificate of citizenship. Lawyers estimated that there are millions of Americans who are Canadian descendants. American applicants have different motivations, but many say the president's immigration crackdown and other topics have led them to do this. Parker, what do you think it costs to become a Canadian?
Oh, I don't know. Do you have to learn how to ride a moose?
No, I meant cost. What does it cost you to become a Canadian?
$100.
$55.
Hey, that's pretty good.
55. That's cheap. Well, listen, Canadians are nice. 55. But now, if you do it yourself, it's $55. If you got to hire a lawyer, of course, it's going to be more. Wow. If you go to the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada website, they process the application. Usually about 10 months to get it in. More than 56,000 people are on the waiting list to become Canadian citizens.
So
I know.
Might take a minute.
Yeah, but that's still in a year. You're saying in a year, then you have dual citizenship, which means you can come and go as you please. You just zip. It's like Wisconsin. You zip in, you zip out. That's a Stripes reference, Parker.
I do know Stripes, actually.
Okay. So, yeah, that would be fun. One of my brothers is dead set against it. Why would you want to have citizenship anywhere other than America? I don't know, just because because when I'm on a plane and it gets hijacked, I pull out my Irish passport rather than my American passport, and I don't get executed in the aisle. That's just me. I take it to the worst case scenario because you never know when some hijacker is going to start rounding up passports and singling out Americans. And I go, oh, sure, I'm not from America. I'm not one of them. Not a chance about it. So, I'm working on the brogue and I'm working on the passport so I can go incognito. Maybe I work for the CIA. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen to me. When we come back, are benefits a non-negotiable part of your job? If they are, you definitely want to pay attention to this. Things are a-changing. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak. It's 6:30 on the Civic Media Network.
Want to join in on the conversation? Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Now back to Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome. Glad you're with me this morning. Jamie will be back on Monday. Frank and Parker are here, though, hanging out with me. And you are hanging out with me, and I appreciate that, either on the stream or on the Civic Media app or listening to your local radio station all the way up and down the network. I do appreciate you being here. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Are benefits a non-negotiable part of your job? And if so, which one is the deal breaker? If this benefit were being taken away, that's it. You got to find a new job. Now, I'll be honest, for most of my career, most of my life, I was self-employed. I was on the road doing stand-up for 20 years. When I was at my first radio stations, I was there, as an independent contractor. So I never got benefits. I didn't have paid time off. I didn't have insurance. Thankfully, my wife, the firm she worked for, we have insurance through that. And so if I wanted to, this is why, Parker, I get people laugh that I don't seem to take time off, because I'm still in that old mindset. I never had paid time off. So if I took time off, that meant I wasn't working. That meant I wasn't getting paid.
You're
and
slacking.
Daddy needs to get paid.
You gotta get that bag.
Oh, man, my bag is a snack-size bag, but I got to get it anyway. Okay, I don't know. I don't get the big 33-gallon lawn and leaf bag.
No,
I get
but a bag's a bag.
A bag is a bag. That is true. So I got to get the bag. And the reason I bring this up, and the reason I'm asking you about benefits, because now that I have benefits, now I've become greedy. So like we have, and a lot of people have PTO, paid time off at their job. And you get a certain amount of days, and then the longer you're with a company, you get more days. You know how that works. And now I'm like a squirrel in the summer. I'm hoarding my nuts. I want to make sure I have 1,000,000 days. I don't know when I'm going to use them. I don't know if I'm ever going to use them, but I like to have them. So I don't know. We know I have to take time off for my daughter's wedding, but it's killing me that I have to burn days. I'm like,
You're not happy about that.
I'm not.
I can certify he is not happy about this, guys.
No, trust me. As much as it seems like sometimes I'm cranky, I love doing this, and I can't believe I get to do it every day. And the thing is, I've felt this way since the first day I walked into a radio station. So that hasn't changed. But I don't want to burn those days. Well, Brian, why are you bringing this up? We don't care about your weird work ethic or your psychotic need to squirrel away days. No, I know you don't. But you should start paying attention, because in the latest sign of employers flexing their power, 2 high-profile companies are shrinking variations of their highly popular benefits. Zoom this year reduced the number of weeks of paid paternal leave that it offers, while Deloitte is also planning to do the same and more for select groups of workers starting in January. The changes could be an early signal of a broader shift. In a tight labor market, even highly valued benefits may be on the chopping block. Workers have fewer options for job hopping, which we know if you've been looking for a job, you know how tough it is. Once a few marquee employers make bold moves, others may be inclined to follow. So you might think, well, I work at a big company. My benefits are safe. Are they? Are any of our benefits safe? Former Google head of human resources, Laszlo Bock, that's a great name, Laszlo, who now advises startup founders, said it legitimizes the action for everybody, that action of cutting people's benefits. For example, he said this has happened in recent years with the adoption and rollback of DEI policies and the return to office push. And I know my wife, for example, this return to office thing. During COVID, of course, like a lot of places, everybody was working from home. Her firm, just before the pandemic, had made some real estate moves and bought new office space. Well, then the pandemic hit. They weren't using the office space. You couldn't unload office space. So despite the fact that everybody said, oh, wow, we have been so productive with people working at home, we've made more money, everything is going great, but you still have to come back because we're stuck with this office space and we need to fill it. So at Zoom, birthing parents now get 18 weeks of paid paternal leave. That's down from 22 to 24 weeks. And non-birthing parents get 10 weeks, down from 16. That is a huge cut. Now, I know there's some people who still, if you're single, if you don't have kids, you're like, well, who cares? Why should just married people who have children get these breaks? But there's other breaks that are associated with you that could come down the line. So Deloitte reduced parental leave benefits. There's going to affect workers in support roles such as administrative services, information technology, and finance. The Big Four consulting firms also plan to pare back or cut annual PTO, a pension plan, and IVF funding for some of those individuals. The changes are notable given that paid parental leave, vacation time, and disability leave are among the most valued workplace benefits. That's according to a 2026 MetLife survey of 2,500 full-time U.S. workers. And I want to survey you at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. What's your deal breaker benefit? If you lost this, you would have to start looking for another job, despite the fact that we all know how tough it is. I think, because we get our insurance through my wife, PTO is my drop dead benefit. You negotiate that. And I know it's hard when you're starting a new job at a new place. You have to, this is the minimum we give. I'm always hesitant for people. Like my daughter now is, she's been in the job market. She's been in the professional world for a while. And she's been very fortunate. The places she's worked have had really good benefits. And so she's been happy with that. But I know if she were to do it again, that would be one of the top things. Parker, you're new into the workforce. Yeah. What is and I know we have benefits here at Civic, which is great. They take pretty good care of us. So what's the one benefit you would not want to lose?
Oh, man. I very much like you, Brian, I don't take really any PTO hardly at all. You can't.
There's no other
there's no other
true. Tech producer to work for us.
That is also true.
Not that would work for us. There just isn't. There's not anymore.
So, no one's going to get up this early. That's a problem.
No, so we got you.
You've got me. I really do think that PTO might be it, though, because I, at this stage in my life, still have insurance through my parents right now. So, yeah, it probably is PTO is the most. It's not so much the benefits themselves. It's the handling of the benefits to me. Like, okay, if I take the PTO, are you going to be a pain about it?
Ah, all right.
Because that can be a thing.
Yeah, where it's, you didn't request it early enough. Well, there's no chance I'm not going on this vacation, so deal with it. Lacking leverage is part of the problem. Companies know they can do that because you and I are, we work for the man, and the man's got his boot on our neck. We can't always do it. So Zoom and Deloitte's actions come at a time when many employers have been prioritizing measurable results over loyalty, raising performance expectations, and tracking workers' AI usage. Pandemic-era perks like gym discounts are declining, in-office mandates are widespread, and layoffs continue to slip. Meanwhile, job growth has been stagnant, and many workers are staying put. The U.S. quit rate edged down almost 2% in February, It was 1.9% in February. It was 2% in January, according to the latest data available from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We know we can't go anywhere. Tom is listening on WMDX. He's in Hartford. Many years I did not take one sick day. I accumulated over 1,000 hours of sick time. Other coworkers had maybe 100 hours and were off almost 1 day a week. When they needed the hours, they were low. Yeah, Tom, that's if you're not sick. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody taking a day here and there. If you're, Jamie took vacation. Well, she has vacation. I got no problem with that. I'm going to take some days off in August. Whatever. But when you save them, I always worry, because back in the day, and it sounds like, Tom, you might have worked at a place like this where you could bank them. You just kept accumulating. You could bank them all and you'd be set. Now, in a lot of places, if you don't use all your days, you lose most of them. So that's part of the thing where I'm like, well, as much as I don't like taking off and missing shows, I also don't want to lose days that I've earned. My dad was like Tom, never took a sick day. He worked for the Chicago Board of Education. When he retired, he had enough sick days to get a year's salary. They paid him out a year's salary just for the days he did not take off. And I think part of the reason he didn't take off, one, because he had a good work ethic, two, because he would have had to stay home with all five of us. So it would have made him even sicker than the days he went into work sick. So yeah, he got cashed out. His dream, after having to drive 5 kids around his whole life, was to get a Cadillac. He took that money from his sick days and he bought himself a Cadillac. So good for him. Let's go to Richland Center. That's where Chris is hanging on at 855-75-CIVIC. Good morning, Chris. Welcome.
Hi.
So what do you think, Chris?
Hi.
What's your deal breaker benefit?
So I work for a company that gives me a retirement benefit of 15% of whatever I make every year, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. When I started working there, I couldn't believe how great it was, but I've been there just about 9 years now, and that's the one thing, if they ever decided to take that away, I would definitely be finding somewhere else to work. So that's what keeps me coming back.
There you go. And you know what? That's if that's the motivation you need, I'm glad you have it. That's a terrific benefit. Thanks, Chris. That's a great call. I appreciate it. All right, John texts in. He's listening on WISS in Oshkosh. Losing unused PTO days seems criminal. I agree. I don't know how I think what it is, John, like in a lot of cases, there's a couple bad apples who look at their PTO and get to the end where maybe they know they're quitting. They know for whatever reason they're going to be leaving. Maybe they're going to be retiring, whatever it is. And they go, man, oh man, I've got like 3 months worth of PTO days. Guess what? I'll see you in September. I'm taking the summer off. Not bad. You're getting paid. Now, of course, you come back in December, you got 0 days. But if you're leaving the company anyway, it's not going to matter. Plus, you can't, if you're going to stay at the company, you can't take that many. But I don't think you should lose them. I think at the end, if you put in, say you're at a company 10 years, well, then you're eligible. If you do leave, you can cash out your days. You can make it 15 years. Give it as a benefit for your long-term employees and just say, okay, you can roll them over. I think we get to roll over a couple every year, but we don't get to roll over. And that's, most places are like that. We're not, like, we're lucky to, I'm happy that we get the days. We get to roll over a couple. And a lot of workers are in that mindset. They're like, well, losing benefits is better than being laid off. And unfortunately, the more all of us think that way, the harder it's going to be to fight these companies cutting our benefits to benefit their bottom line. Not you. You're just the employee, and they figure they can get a lot of employees. And when you don't have leverage, that's when things get a little dicey for all of us. All right, we're going to start talking, Parker. It's day 2 of the draft in the NFL draft. Green Bay is already lobbying to get the draft back. So since you went last year, we want to talk to you about that. We want to talk to you about it too. Do you want the NFL draft coming back to Green Bay? 855-75-CIVIC. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan, and you're listening to the Civic Media Network.
Local news, community stories, and the conversations that matter most. Now, more Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome. Glad you are here. The NFL draft is happening this weekend in Pittsburgh. Did you watch any of it last night, Parker?
I was watching the notifications come through on my phone. I had the hockey on last night. Instead.
Oh, very nice. Okay,
yes.
That makes sense. I only watched the last couple minutes. I was at a thing. I was at a thing, Parker. I'm a busy man. I was at a thing. So I got home and I watched a little just to see the setup and see where everything was, being familiar with Pittsburgh. I wanted to get a lay of the land. So it looks very cool. People were going crazy. The Packers did not have a pick in the first round for the first time in 40 years. That's because they got Micah Spires, and so you really can't expect. You got to give up some picks.
Yeah,
but they do have one pick tonight, so we'll be talking more draft later, getting into some of the specifics, some of the prospective picks. We're also I got to give you credit, Parker. Going to give you a shout out. Oh. We are talking to Augustus Gloop. No, that's not his name. Matthias. We're talking to the man who was the Green Bay Packers International Fan of the Year last year. He is known as the German Packer. Parker met him last year at the draft in Green Bay. Got a hold of him yesterday. We're going to talk to him from Pittsburgh, where he is ready to give up his crown to a new Packers International Fan of the Year. So we're going to do some draft talk today. If you're not, and it's not going to, listen, there's plenty of politics coming up. So, but we got a lot of things going on, and this is a big weekend for Wisconsin and for Packers fans. So, Parker, you were at the draft last year, and by all accounts, economically, from the NFL, everything, it was a huge success. Did you find it to be successful and a good event?
Yeah, I think, frankly, in every way, I think it was a really good event. It was very well held, hosted by the Packers. They did a really good job of making it as accessible as possible, I think. Nice. One of the things that we were worried about when we got there was how many people they could hold in there, because there are hundreds of thousands of people every day. And what they did is they actually opened up the stadium, and you could go sit in the bowl if there was overflow of how many people, so you could watch from in there. Yeah, because
that's cool.
I can't think of what I believe it's the Oneida Gate is the closest to where the stage was, and that whole parking lot up almost to the Resch Center, I believe, was pretty much jam packed with people. So they had a ton of people. I believe the final tally over the 3 days was over 600,000 people.
That sounds about right. And because of that, Green Bay organizers want to do it again. The Packers president and CEO, Ed Policy, said, "I'd love to host another one. There are a number of teams in line to host the draft right now, maybe in a few years, but we are certainly going to throw our hat in the ring." It was last year, this weekend, the 24th to the 26th at Lambeau. And it, surrounding towns were all involved. Everybody was there. The direct and indirect spending in that area is estimated to be about $72.9 million just for the local economic impact. Statewide impact was $104.7 million. Total attendance over the 3 days, you're right, Parker, 605,000, 362,588 unique visitors. So people came back a couple days. They did all that stuff. Total attendance was the second highest ever for the draft. The average audience for round one coverage was 13.6 million. That was 11% up from the year before when the draft was in Detroit, Rock City. Yes, it was the second most watched day one on record, behind only 2020. That means it was the most watched NFL draft ever under normal circumstances. Policy said that another draft might be in Green Bay's future, although not soon. In the meantime, the success of the draft continues to be something the community can build on, organizers say. After the draft, there were a lot of surveys coming in. Tanya is in Madison listening on WMDX. She says, yes, exclamation point. The draft in Green Bay was amazing. I agree that they should bring it back. Such a great opportunity for the city and for Wisconsin. Yeah, it was. Well, listen, our man Parker wants it back next year. Can't have it next year.
We could do it next year.
We could, but they're not going to let us. The NFL is picky that way because then you'd be here whining from other cities.
I can't have it here.
There was whining about Green Bay getting to host it in the first place because it was too small. That's always the knock on with Milwaukee and Green Bay for professional sports. It's too
right,
small.
but then people come here and they're like, "Oh man,
this is sick.
This was great." Everybody had they're dead enough 4-star hotels, 5-star hotels. Okay, well, figure it out. Maybe somebody has to stay at a 4-star instead of a 5-star. Boo hoo. That's the way it goes. So all the neighboring communities, all of that were all involved. Everybody got their beak wet. Everybody got a little something. I would say, according to Joel Grigzowski, Ashwaubenon's village manager, he said, I would say our working relationships are certainly better now than they were before, which is great in the long term. Collaboration between the Packers, Discover Green Bay, and PMI, as well as all the communities, will continue to pay dividends, everybody says. So the area is what they built. They built all new, bunch of new things up near Lambeau. They got everything set. Everything is beautiful. And the other towns, man, think about those rentals were full, hotels were full, restaurants were full. Everybody was making money. And by all accounts, all the fans seemed very happy too. So good luck. I hope the Packers do get it back again. I know when it was in Chicago, it was a big success. It's a success everywhere. What surprised people, Parker, is, like you said, everybody, the knock is, Green Bay is too small. But then you see how many people showed up. You see how many people watched because it was in Green Bay, maybe just because the audience is going up. We'll see if Pittsburgh gets the same numbers that Green Bay got this year, but who knows. When we come back after the news, it's time for some headlines, it's time for some stuff you need to know, and it's time for Swipe or Stay. We got a lot going on in hour number 2. I hope you'll stick around and get involved. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Don't forget, you can download the free Civic Media app to listen to us too. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
Good morning. Welcome to hour 2 of the broadcast. It is Friday on Daybreak. Hopefully you're getting ready for an enjoyable weekend. Before you do that, you want to jump on the show with us, 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie will be back with us on Monday. And now it is time for some headlines. First, we'll start with headlines coming out of the war. Tomorrow starts week 8 of the war of choice in Iran. A fragile truce in Lebanon has been extended by 3 weeks after Israeli and Lebanese representatives met at the White House yesterday. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is among the key sticking points in the U.S.-Iran peace, or the U.S.-Iran peace efforts. President Trump again refused to give a timeline for resolving the Iran war. He told reporters, "Don't rush me." Okay. He blamed what he described as a lack of clear leadership for stalled talks. He didn't clarify which side he was speaking about with the clear leadership, but I guess you could take it however you want. But that's what he blamed the stalled talks on. He said the U.S. does not know who the leader is in Iran as pressure grows from the global economic impacts. We do know who it is. We've known who it is since you killed the old leader and the new leader stepped in. There is no confusion, and there's no confusion on Iran's part about who their leader is because they keep making the statements. Do they make them through their foreign minister instead of on social media? Yes. But believe it, they know who is their leader. U.S. military officials are developing new plans to target Iran's capabilities in the Strait of Hormuz if the Iran ceasefire falls apart. That's according to CNN. And speaking of Iran's foreign minister held separate conversations with Pakistan's army chief and foreign minister today as both parties discussed efforts to maintain a truce between Tehran and Washington. Iran's foreign minister discussed, quote, regional developments and issues related to the ceasefire with Field Marshal Munir and Dar, according to Iran's semi-official agency, the Mer News. So there's some headlines from the war. And now, how about some you need to know?
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
Okay, President Trump orders the U.S. military to shoot and kill. That is his words, not mine. The U.S. military to shoot and kill small Iranian boats, which he described. I don't know if you saw the press conference or the Oval Office conference yesterday when reporters were in there. He called them wise guy boats. Wise guy boats, that's what I call them, wise guy boats. The little boats that zip around, dropping mines in. They got guns on them, wise guys. They're the small Iranian boats that deploy mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This is yesterday, a day after Iran again displayed its ability to thwart traffic through the channel. Trump's post on social media came shortly after the U.S. military seized another tanker associated with the smuggling of Iranian oil, ratcheting up a standoff with Tehran over the strait, through which 20% of all crude oil and natural gas traded passes. According to the Post on X, or Truth Social rather, it said, I have ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be, that is putting mines in the water in the Strait of Hormuz. He said, adding, U.S. minesweepers are clearing the strait right now. I am hereby ordering that activity to continue, but at a tripled up level. Does it worry anybody else that he is so cavalier with terms like shoot and kill and obliterate a civilization and wipe out all bridges? And he talks like he's writing some really bad adventure novel, and yet these are real people. And we saw it with the boats coming out of Venezuela. There was no proof that they were drug boats. Instead of commandeering them and investigating, he just blew them up. And now he's saying we're just going to blow up and kill these boats. Now, if our blockade and armada is there, isn't there another way? Well, it was still unclear when or if the two sides would meet again in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, where mediators are trying to bring the countries together to reach a diplomatic deal. Negotiations initially planned for this week have not happened. Iran insists it will not attend until the U.S. ends its blockade on Iranian ports and ships. America insists it will not take part until Tehran opens the strait to international traffic. So it seems like we got a good old-fashioned standoff. And who's going to blink first? I don't know. This is just coming out, and so I want to jump in with this because we've been talking for, weeks and months about people who seem to make money on these prediction markets with some sort of, it appears, some sort of inside information about big global events. Well, turns out, first arrest is happening on that. A U.S. Special Forces soldier involved in the military operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been charged with using classified information about the mission to win more than $400,000 in an online betting market. That, according to federal officials yesterday. Gannon Ken Van Dyke was part of the operation to capture Maduro in January and used his access to classified information to make money on the prediction market site Polymarket, the federal prosecutor's office in New York said. He has been charged by the Justice Department with unlawful use of confidential government information for personal gain, theft of non-public government information, commodities fraud, wire fraud, and making an unlawful monetary transaction. He could face years in prison. He's 38 years old. He was involved in the planning and execution of capturing Maduro for about a month, beginning December 8th, 2025. That, according to the federal prosecutor's office. Even though he signed a non-disclosure agreement promising not to divulge, quote, any classified or sensitive information, end quote, related to the operation, prosecutors say the Army soldier used his information to make a series of bets related to Maduro being out of power by January 31st, 2026. So this just cements all the suspicions that a lot of us have had. These polymarkets, and if you're not familiar with polymarkets and you don't want a dry lesson, I would suggest going to Sunday's episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He does a really good job explaining these polymarkets and where they stand and what the possible harm could be using these polymarkets. So, the prediction markets rather. Polymarket is the company, but there's a number of them. Polymarket is just one of them. It's the prediction markets. So go check that out. But now we'll see. I wonder if I wonder if all the money Pete Hegseth made from buying into military stocks within an hour before the bombing started in Iran, I wonder if he's a little nervous today. Well, let's see what else is in the You Need to Know column. Oh, look at this. The Justice Department watchdog is going to review handling of the Epstein files. They are launching the review into the DOJ's production of files and documents related to Jeffrey Epstein as controversy continues over how the handling of the case of the convicted sex offender was handled. The Inspector General will focus on the DOJ's identification, collection, and production of responsive material, it said in a statement yesterday, as well as processes for redacting and withholding material and how the Justice Department addressed issues following the release of Epstein documents. The vast files collected throughout investigations related to Epstein were ordered to be released by Congress in a law that passed last year. Some members of Congress have ridiculed the Justice Department for over-redactions and tracking their searches as it went through unredacted versions of the material. Congress passed the Epstein File Transaction Act in November after repeated failures from the Justice Department to deliver on the promises that they would be releasing information on Epstein, even material it did not have, like the long-fabled list of contacts and co-conspirators that now former Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed that was on her desk and ready to be released. Remember that? Oh, it's on my desk. Oh, no, it doesn't exist. Well, which is it? Your desk doesn't exist? The list doesn't exist? What exists? No such list has ever been produced, and the Justice Department has not charged anyone beyond Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, in his new role leading the department after Bondi's ousting, argued during a press conference this month that the new DOJ under Trump's second term, quote, has been a lot more transparent, end quote, than past administrations. But Blanche has also tried to hurry the Epstein scandal into the dustbin of history, saying, I think that to the extent that the Epstein file was a part of the past year of this Justice Department, it should not be a part of anything going forward. I think most of us would disagree with that. And let's keep in mind who Todd Blanche was before he was in the DOJ. He was Trump's personal attorney. So, keep that in mind, shall we? How about a little something closer to home that you need to know? And speaking of these prediction markets, our Attorney General, Josh Kaul, is suing behemoth prediction markets, Kalshi, Coinbase, Polymarket, and others, alleging they are running illegal gambling schemes in Wisconsin. I love when something is categorized as a scheme. Kaul plans to file 3 separate lawsuits in Dane County Circuit Court against prediction market companies, alleging that they are bypassing state laws by characterizing sports bets as, quote-unquote, event contracts. He says sports betting and other forms of commercial gambling have long been illegal in the state of Wisconsin. No company is above this law, no matter how creatively those companies try to disguise the activity they're engaged in. He said that in a virtual press conference yesterday. Kaul said the state is asking the judge overseeing the case to declare such gambling a violation of the law and to be banned in the state. He is not seeking any monetary damages, however. Spokesperson for one of the named companies, Robinhood, said in a statement that the company's, quote, event contracts are federally regulated and allow customers to, quote, access prediction markets in a safe, compliant, and regulated manner. The lawsuits are going to be filed just 2 weeks after Governor Evers signed into law a measure that paves the way for online sports betting in the state, but requires such gambling to be carried out only through the state's 11 tribal nations. Now, Kaul has said that the new law had no bearing on his decision to file this lawsuit. The new law adds an exception to the state's legal definition of bet to allow wagers placed on a mobile or electronic device by a person located in Wisconsin, as long as the service or device processing the bet is located on in-state tribal lands and otherwise follows the state's gaming compacts. So these prediction markets, which have been growing and growing, I've never placed a bet on a prediction market, but they are wildly popular. They're coming under more scrutiny. Well, that's You Need to Know. And if there's more You Need to Know, you can either go follow us on Spotify, where you can subscribe to our podcast, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie, so that you can always catch up on things you may have missed here. You can also download the free Civic Media app. Take us everywhere when you are just out wandering and you want to listen to the show. And also, don't forget to go to Instagram and Facebook and follow our new pages. They are Daybreak with Brian and Jamie. Go check out the pictures, the links, the reels, all the fun things. When we come back, it is time to swipe and or stay. Frank is going to join us. We're going to talk some big pop culture stories. Again, I am trying to be good and not cheat because I saw some headlines yesterday that piqued my interest, but I never know if they're going to be included, so I don't read them. But we will see what Frank has in store when we come back. And then at 7:35, Matthias Kraus joins us. Who is Matthias Kraus? He is the Packers 2024 International Fan of the Year. So a lot coming up here on Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan, and this is the Civic Media Network.
Let's break out of the bubble and see what's happening out there in pop culture. It's Swipe or Stay on Daybreak.
This is always a fun part of the show. Frank comes up with with a game for us every day. It's the same game. It's Swipe or Stay, and we have a ball. Mr. Plow King is saying that we are in so much trouble when Mom gets back on Monday. Do you think Jamie wants to be considered the show's mom?
I don't think she wants to be. I think she's just accepted the fact.
Yeah. I think she. Yeah. I think it's
Parker's
a role.
A child, and you and I act like children. So
right. Yeah. I'm the brother that you keep locked up in the bedroom upstairs, and then he comes down in the holidays and embarrasses you. All right, Frank, it's Swipe or Stay. How are we? Now, listen, I don't want to jinx today, but you've had a good run this week. Monday through Thursday, solid.
I think we have some good stuff today. And the first story, I'm just going to say, if you guys swipe on it, I might override you all for the first time.
Holy cow.
Whoa.
It's good stuff. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to read some pop culture headlines. No swiping. I'm going to read some pop culture headlines.
Swiper.
Brian and Parker are going to have to decide whether to stay and hear more or swipe on to the next one. In the event of a tie, or if I just hate their decision, I might override them. I'm kidding. That's not how the game works. It's
well, it is
fine.
this week. This week it's how the game works.
Yeah, that's true. Mom's not home, so. All right.
Mom always said don't play ball in the house.
NFL head coach Mike Vrabel to miss.
Oh, God.
To miss.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the NFL draft.
All right. I'm hoping you get to the part of this story that I want to hear, but I will stay because you threatened us.
Oh, I'll stay.
Of course you're staying, Parker. Mike Vrabel is taking some time off from being an NFL head coach to go do an
alleged philanderer
counseling. Well, I don't know if it's alleged anymore.
If he's getting counseling.
Page 6, who initially broke the story,
oh boy,
have now acquired pictures of Vrabel and Rossini kissing at a bar 6 years ago.
Canoodling?
Canoodling.
They were canoodling?
6 years ago, pre-pandemic by like 1 week.
I saw these pictures, and a couple of them you go, well, maybe he's leaning in like he's a guy. You got to, even when she leans back, she's still making eye contact and laughing, and he's leaning in like, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, allegedly.
So Mike Vrabel had an unannounced press conference yesterday before the first round of the draft. Here, we have some audio.
You know, my previous actions don't meet the standard that I hold myself to. They don't. And what I believe is best for the two most important things in my life, my family and this football team, is for us to take the necessary steps to work together and to give them what I told them I'd give them, which is the best version of me.
Now, does that sound like who was accused of doing something that was totally nothing, that was blown out of proportion?
Sounds like a witch hunt to me, Frank.
I think, look, that's as good as any admission. I want Vrabel's wife to answer. Do you want her to come out here?
No, I want her to be left alone. She doesn't. Yeah. She doesn't deserve to be dragged into this. It's not like she's been out there in the past making a big media, spectacle of herself. Leave the woman alone.
My point, I get what you're saying, and I agree. My point is that if you asked his wife what she thinks of this, this is totally nothing would not be her response.
You know when you'll get her statement? When the divorce papers are filed. That will be her statement.
Also, one quick little note that I want to throw out there.
Yes.
Rossini gave birth to a son in 2021. His name is Michael.
Stop it. Stop.
Get out.
Look it up.
Stop.
Look it up.
No.
Wow.
The kissing pictures from 2020. She gave birth to a son named Michael in 2021.
Parker, I know Frank is.
I'm not
young.
confirming anything.
You can't get pregnant from kissing, Parker.
You can. No. I'm just saying.
Phew.
I'm not saying, but I'm
from
just
bumping
saying.
uglies you can, and allegedly there were bumping some uglies.
Whoa.
Story
All
number
right,
2.
we're moving on. Prison inmates are mad at Superman.
It's so ridiculous. I have to stay.
Yeah. Stay.
They know he can whip all their butts, right?
So here's the story. Some inmates in Atlanta are upset at the Man of Steel, and the reason being is the sequel is being shot there. And inmates are pissed off that the film shoot is messing up their daily routines.
I mean, I get it.
Officials
They can't lift weights enough?
I mean, you can't be out in the yard if they're filming out in the yard.
Can't take a date to the shower? What's going on?
If they're filming a scene in the chow hall, you can't go eat there at that time.
You don't have a lot going on.
You know what?
You're in prison. I get it.
the grievance. So officials from the prison say disruptions to inmates' lives have been kept to a minimum, and those who are complaining are blowing it out of proportion. They said also they should be thankful because higher quality food is being prepared there right now because of the filmmakers being there, and all the inmates are benefiting from it.
Yeah, Superman isn't eating prison chow.
No.
So they get the... Yeah, and I hate to say this. This does not amount to cruel and unusual punishment. So boo-hoo, you're in jail. It's punishment to be in jail.
Celebrity admits to sleeping with 16-year-old.
Oh.
I saw this headline. I did not read the story. This guy is a scumbag. Stay.
Yeah, stay.
Disgraced British comedian Russell Brand has admitted to consensually sleeping with a 16-year-old girl when he was 30 years old. I did check, and he is right about this. The UK's age of consent is 16. He went,
legal doesn't make it right.
Correct. He went on to say that he regrets how he treated women back in the day and that he is a changed man. Right now, Brand is currently charged with rape and sexual assault over the last few years in the United Kingdom. He has pled not guilty to all charges against him.
I guess he's not that changed, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Man, what a...
Parker's giving me the rap sign, so that is Swipe or Stay today, boys. I told you it was a good one.
Frank,
we
good
ended
week.
hot.
It was good.
Man, you had a hardcore week. This was very good. Congrats. We'll do Swipe or Stay. We do it every day. So Frank has to stay on the ball. This is fun. We're going to talk to Matthias Kraus. He is the Packers 2024 International Fan of the Year. We'll talk to him about that after this. It's Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Welcome. Jamie will be back with us next Monday. As you know, and we've talked about it a little already, we're going to talk about it a little more later. The NFL draft is happening this weekend in Pittsburgh. The Packers have their first pick today. And as the NFL has been expanding into Europe, it's been gaining more and more dedicated fans. Just like here in the U.S., some of those fans take their support of their chosen team to new levels. Well, starting back in 2023, each NFL team names an International Fan of the Year. They attend the draft, where then the Ultimate International Fan of the Year is named. This year, the Packers have named Stephen O'Brien of County Wicklow, Ireland, as their International Fan of the Year. He succeeds last year's Packers reigning International Fan of the Year, Matthias Kraus of Germany. Parker had the pleasure of meeting Matthias last year during the draft up in Green Bay, and Matthias Kraus, the German Packer, joins me now from Pittsburgh. Matthias, thank you for being here. It's great to talk to you. I got to know, though, how does a guy from Scheinfurt, Germany, become a diehard Packers fan? Oh, I think Matthias is, you can see him. There he is. It is the German Packer cheesehead and his jersey. That's his special fan of the year jersey. He's in an Airbnb in Pittsburgh, and it looks like the internet is back. There you are. Welcome back, Matthias. Glad you're here. I don't know if you heard my question. I want to know how you were born and raised in Scheinfurt, Germany. How do you become a Green Bay Packers fan?
So I can't hear you right now, so let me see.
All right, Parker, why don't you do me a favor and work on getting Matthias back. Hopefully we get him back. If you're on the stream, at least you saw Matthias. Now that's not his original hat. He had a different hat that he wore when he was first becoming a big Packers fan. Then one of the Tundra Tony or one of the other big Packers super fans made him that cheese hat, which he wears all over Germany. As you can imagine, it grabs a little bit of attention being there in Germany, getting all that. So let me give you a little background on Matthias. He lives now in Gottsheim, but it also says maybe last year when he wrote the thing he lived in Scheinfurt. But he is the German Packer. He's been a Packers fan for about 30 years, and he said in his bio when he was applying to be the International Fan of the Year, he said that he considers himself a Packer fan because traveling back and forth from Germany to see Packers costs time and money. I attend multiple games a year and do a lot of charity stuff around my fandom. Being a fan for fans is very important to me. When I won the election for Germany's NFL Fan of the Year, which he did prior to being the Packers International Fan of the Year, he felt very honored, even more when the Packers picked me as their International Fan of the Year in 2024. He does come to games before. He said for game day in Germany, the most recognizable part for him is his German cheesehead. Parker, where do we stand? Just so we know.
I believe we've got Matthias back in here. Matthias,
there's Matthias.
Right
he
I'm
is
sorry.
Sorry about that.
I lost connection. I'm sorry. So
that's all right. Listen, technology doesn't always cooperate with us, Matthias. It's the way it is. So I want to get back to this. Born and raised in Scheinfurt, Germany. How do you become not only Germany's NFL Fan of the Year, but then the Packers International Fan of the Year? How does this evolution happen?
So it all started back in the old days, I would say, when I saw my first American football game on television. We are not born and raised in Germany with American football, so it was completely a new kind of sport for me. And then I found out that all the soldiers in Schweinfurt, they were stationed there, and they had a connection with a German American football team. So they built it and all of that, and I started to go there and watching games, and it ended up with the Packers because of all what the history and the ownership, and then it started that Brett Favre brought the success back to the Packers, and it ended up that I wanted to go to Lambeau Field, and I think it's now 13 years ago. Or maybe 14, I'm not really sure. I visited my first game at Lambeau Field, and then it was completely done. So I was shocked about all of that, what's going on there. And I really fell in love with Green Bay and with the people around there. So it's a special type of people in the Midwest.
We think so.
Yeah, you are really special there, and the good thing is I met some very, very nice people, and they helped me with all of that by hosting me and taking me around and all of that. I really love to be there every time, and at the beginning it was the Packers games, and now it's more to come home, having family, and beside of that, of course, Packers.
That's great. And now, obviously you've made friends. You've got people that, like you say, you consider family. Today in Pittsburgh, you're at the draft. When you come to Lambeau, are you recognized now? Are you kind of a celebrity, having been the Packers International Fan of the Year? You've got you're not dressed to blend in. You've got your German Packer cheese head on, and your excellent fan of the International Fan jersey. Do people come up to you and go, "Oh my gosh, it's Matthias, the German Packer"?
And it was with announcing the pick on the draft stage last year in Green Bay. That was a booster on the chance that people can recognize me. So I'm so honored to be on that situation. So like you mentioned that Stephen, the guy from Ireland, is now also here. He's also a super nice guy, and I think to have the chance to do this, what we do, and to get recognized by the organization, this is the best thing that you can earn as a fan. And it's always funny that people also here in Pittsburgh, Packer fans, step up to me and ask for a picture.
Nice.
So it's funny. It's really funny.
It must be a lot of fun. All right, I have to ask, as the International Fan of the Year, the Packers have their only pick in the second round tonight. Who do they go with? What is the German Packers pick?
I'm not really good in those
Do you think
things.
it should be defense or offense? We'll get it that way.
I think they will pick a corner.
A corner, okay. See,
Yeah.
Parker's nodding his head. He agrees. You think that's a good pick, Parker?
Yeah, I can believe it. We'll talk about our picks a little bit more
yes,
later. But
there's still some good corners. There's still some good corners on the board. We know that. What's the difference, Matthias? We're talking to Matthias Kraus. He's the Packers 2024 International Fan of the Year. He is in Pittsburgh for the draft, where Stephen O'Brien will take the crown. It's kind of like Miss America. Do you hand over a crown? Do you give Stephen a piece of advice before he takes over, as now you get to not ride off into the sunset, but your official duties for the year have ended? What do you tell Stephen as he starts?
So yeah, we met us in Ireland, and I actually handed over a football from the Packers organization to him, and so no advice at that point. So he's such a great guy, and he's doing a lot of things. So he don't need any advice, and it's not on my side to do so. But when we met in Ireland, Danny Whelan was also at that bar, and it was a nice evening. And so I hope that I will met him here today. Yesterday I didn't see him, but they are really busy. I know that from last year. The schedule is so tight with going behind the scenes, have a red carpet walk, meeting here, meeting there. So it's a fantastic journey.
Is it more relaxing for you now this year to be at the draft because last year you were so busy with all the other stuff? This year you can actually enjoy the draft experience. And what's the biggest difference between what you're seeing in Pittsburgh and what you got to experience at the draft last year at Lambeau?
So the biggest difference for me is last year I had the schedule, like I said before, and with having the tickets for the inner circle last year and all these things, you are able to show up later the day, so you have your seats. Yeah. and yesterday we were out there by 7:30 in the morning. So we had a little thing going on with Good Morning America, and then we were hanging out the whole day. So we were on that place where we liked to be, we were there for 5 hours before the draft started. So this is the main difference. That the time that you have to spend to be on a spot that you like through, everything was.
Yeah, fine. I guess once you don't, the perk of being a VIP is you can just show up. We were talking earlier, Matthias, about Green Bay saying they want to have the draft again. I'm guessing you would be in favor of that?
Of course. So they did such a great job, and I only heard positive answers to that. Also here, I talked with a lot of people, and they asked about the draft last year. So it was an amazing job from the city and the organization. So they have to get it back.
Are you planning to come to any games in Green Bay this year?
As soon as I have my schedule, normally I'm there for 3 to 5 games. It depends on the schedule. So I'm really waiting for May 12th or 13th. I think. And
once the schedule is released.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We're also planning to bring back our fan club. So we were there last year with nearly 60 of the guys, and we're planning another vacation.
Are there that many Packers fans in Germany?
Yeah, we have a fan club with 1,100 members, and I would assume that we have 30,000 Packer fans in Germany.
That is, what is it about the Packers? Is it just not only the history, obviously, but is there something about just the feel of the Packers and the fact that the fans own the team? What makes the Packers so attractive to German fans?
I think it's the history. Then what you said, the owner situation. So, but most of them history, and of course, Aaron Rodgers did a lot of that for recruiting new fans with the Hail Mary things and all of that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, Matthias Kraus is the Packers 2024 International Fan of the Year. Matthias, thank you so much for being with us today. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Have a great weekend in Pittsburgh. We'll be back with more. It's the Civic Media Network.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie's on vacation. She'll be back with us on Monday. Across Wisconsin, sheriff's offices are updating or creating immigration policies to determine how much, if any, cooperation and support they're going to provide to ICE. For the second year in a row, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and Green Bay Press-Gazette surveyed all 72 Wisconsin sheriffs about their cooperation with ICE. Two of the team that were involved in the research and reporting join me now, Gina Castro and Zara Norman. Ladies, thank you for being here. It is a fascinating report. People can always read the whole thing at jsonline.com. But let me just start, and either one of you can handle this. Is there an overall picture of this year's survey based on what you found for the state, or is it so varied that there's not one particular thing?
Gina, you want to take that one?
Yeah, we've definitely noticed some trends. It wouldn't fit the whole picture, but we've seen an increase in the number of departments who've joined 287G agreements with ICE. So now we're up to 20. We still have those small number of departments that don't have an immigration policy because it's not really something that's happening in their communities. And I think about like 48, right? 48 departments told us in the survey, or at least through their immigration policies, that they're not honoring immigration or ICE detainers in their jails.
Zara, how has that changed from last year's? Because as I said, this was the second year in a row. How did it go?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't on the team last year, but from reading last year's survey and this year's, it seems like the trend is that there's a lot more formality. There's a lot more formal agreements, a lot more formal policies. And that's because, the message from the top down has been that federal officials want to work with state and local law enforcement on immigration enforcement. And so we're really seeing that play out. A lot of people are often formalizing policies that they say have been in place for decades. So just kind of putting policy language or kind of substantiating what they've been doing with something on the books. And a lot of them have been entering into these agreements in the warrant service model that allows them to collaborate with ICE officials and in some cases transport house detainees, get some reimbursement for sort of collaborating with federal law enforcement.
Let's break it down a little. Gina, for the departments that do have a formal agreement, a lot of them are going with an agreement that was written in 2020 and kind of adopted not only here in Wisconsin, but across the country. What is that agreement?
Yeah, the most common one we're seeing, because there's a couple different 287G agreements you can have with ICE, but the most common one we're seeing is the Warrant Service. And that's the one that authorizes the staff of the jails to execute those detainers from ICE. So they'll be contacting ICE and letting them know who entered their jail, basically, and then ICE will say whether they have a detainer and whether you can hold them for that extra 48 hours beyond the time that they're supposed to be released.
Well, let's explain that term for people who aren't familiar. What is a detainer, and how are they used here in Wisconsin, and has there been a change in them from one year to the next?
So an ICE detainer is some sort of something that allows ICE to hold an individual in custody due to violations in federal immigration law. So that's criminal, usually. In some cases, we found that people have an old policy that allowed them to detain people for civil violations, including illegally entering the country. But most Wisconsin departments are now sort of, if they're doing these kinds of things, a detainer is something that most of them actually aren't doing, but it does allow them to hold someone in custody beyond the typical 48 hours that you can have someone in custody if ICE wants them for a criminal federal immigration violation.
And Gina, I guess I'll ask you this one. There are 6 counties that allow, and Zara, you might know this too, either one of you, 6 counties that allow deputies to detain people that they have a reasonable suspicion of entering the country illegally. Did they elaborate on what those reasonable suspicions are, and what are those 6 counties?
Yeah, they did name some of the reasons that could be reasonable suspicion. One of the examples they gave was if they aren't proficient in English, but they said that can't be the main reason to detain someone. But it could be someone literally admitting that they entered the country illegally, and also they were asking deputies to review these documents, whether it's like an ID or a passport, and validating if it's not forged, like it's a real document.
Okay. And Zara, what are those 6 counties that are using this reasonable suspicion?
Yeah, so those policies were used by Dora County, Forest County, Greene, Juneau, Langlade, and Marinette. Since we actually came out and questioned folks on these policies, 3 of those sheriff's departments have stopped doing that, and they've updated their policy to the kind of more formalized one. And those ones that have changed it, correct me if I'm wrong, Gina, I think it's Langlade, Marinette, and is it Juneau?
Yes.
Gina.
Another great example of
okay, cool.
Good journalism forcing change, which I am always happy of. You also reported in the story that Wisconsin sheriffs are going to be asked to play a bigger role in the Trump administration's next chapter of immigration. How so?
Yeah.
So the new. Oh, go ahead, Gina.
Go ahead, Zara.
Oh, sure. So there's a new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Markwayne Mullin, and he told Congress in March at a confirmation hearing that he wants to see ICE be more of a transport from local jails and not the front line of enforcement. And so they're going to be it sounds like from that they're going to be leaning pretty heavily on state and local law enforcement to do some of this frontline stuff. So it'll be different than, what we saw in Chicago, what we saw in Minneapolis, where it's sort of feds coming in. They want to kind of rely on that local level enforcement in a way that, for many Wisconsin counties expressed to us that they don't really think about immigration too often. It's not a top line concern for them. So that would really kind of change the dynamic. Historically, it's been like either they don't think about it or they do and they collaborate with the federal officials. So yeah, there's kind of some plans brewing to maybe change how this has historically worked.
And Gina, but we only got a short time left, but I want to know, we're on all across the state, but we're not going to do every county, but Milwaukee County and Dane County, what are their policies?
So Milwaukee County was one of the two counties that actually went a little bit of a different direction. Both Milwaukee County and Adams County, they added to their policies that deputies can't detain people. Like if ICE were to come and ask for someone to be detained, they can't do it unless they have a warrant signed by a judge.
Okay. And what about Dane County? Where do they fall on this?
What was Dane? I think Dane doesn't honor ICE detainers.
Yeah, Dane said they wouldn't honor any ICE detainers. And they said they don't ask people for their immigration status. And anything they kind of get when people come to the jail is self-reported by the arrestee, and they're not going to proactively assist federal immigration officials.
Perfect. And one last thing, has ICE reached out? I know you guys have reached out to them, obviously, for comment. Have you heard anything back from ICE about this?
About the story? No.
About the story and the agreements and everything else? No. So no comment from them. Well, it is fascinating, and I urge people, no matter what county you live in Wisconsin, go to JS Online, read this study, read the survey and the results. It's the second year in a row that the Journal Sentinel and the Green Bay Press-Gazette have done this. Zara Norman, Gina Castro, thank you so much for joining me, ladies. I appreciate the information. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for having us.
Take care. All right, we'll be back with more. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
From Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, this is Wisconsin's Morning Conversation. Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Glad you're here. Hour 3 of the big show. If you're just joining us, well, you're 2 hours late. You missed a lot. But we can remedy that. If you go to Spotify and you look up Daybreak with Brian and Jamie and you subscribe to our podcast, then you don't have any FOMO. You won't feel like you've missed out on something. You can follow along. Also, if you're like, well, Brian, I'm running around in the morning. I can't always listen. Oh, come on. Download the free Civic Media app, and then you can take us wherever you go. You can take us in when you go to get a coffee. You can take us into when you go to shower. Nothing says, ooh, I want this radio on in my bathroom while I'm naked and wet than listening to Brian and Jamie. That sounds like fun. So you can do all of that. It is the top of the hour, 8 o'clock, 8:07. But who's going to quibble over a few minutes? That means it's time for some headlines from the war in Iran. First things first, Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extend a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah by 3 weeks after talks at the White House on Thursday. The meeting was the second high-level negotiation between the two countries since last week. The initial 10-day ceasefire, which took effect last Friday, had been due to expire on Monday. Other headline prediction, markets that allow people to wager on Trump policies and statements are profiting, including some backed, surprise, surprise, by his oldest son. Boy, a lot of prediction market news today on the show. Who would have thought it? In other headlines coming out of the war, airlines worldwide have begun canceling flights as the war in the Middle East strains jet fuel supplies and pushes up prices. And finally, Iran's top diplomat has called Pakistani officials over the ceasefire in the war with the United States and Israel. A statement today said the Iranian foreign minister spoke with Pakistan's foreign minister and Pakistan's army chief. So we'll see how any of that plays out. That is the end of headlines from the war. And now, of course, we turn our attention to stuff you need to know.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
Yes, there's always stuff you need to know. Well, first thing you need to know is for more than a year, you probably know this already, President Trump staged a series of unremarkable government interventions to private businesses. The moves flew in the face of decades of conservative, free market, capitalist orthodoxy, which doesn't surprise anyone because a lot of his moves fly in the face of conventional thinking. The administration's interest in Spirit Airlines, though, is testing even the GOP's laissez-faire approach. Some prominent Republicans have quickly delivered an apparent brushback pitch against the Trump administration's idea to bail out the troubled Spirit airline with $500 million. Importantly, CNN reports the administration's proposal is expected to include the federal government taking a stake in Spirit as it has in several other companies over the last year. Didn't Donald Trump bankrupt his own airline? Why are we trying to get involved with Spirit? According to Senator Ted Cruz, you know Ted Cruz, he loves the president. He said this is an absolutely terrible idea. That was his post on X. He compared it to the 2008 bank bailouts. He went on to write, the TARP corporate bailouts were a huge mistake, and the government doesn't know a damn thing about running a failed budget airline. In parentheses, he said, that the Biden administration killed. I like that Ted, even when he feels obligated to speak out against Donald Trump, has to take a swipe at Biden. You can't be a Republican if you're not blaming the past administration or Democrats in general. Tom Cotton of Arkansas, another big supporter of the president. He was a little less adamant about his objections, but he did still raise concern. He wrote, if Spirit's creditors or other potential investors don't think they can run it profitably coming out of its second bankruptcy in under 2 years, I doubt the U.S. government can either. Not the best use of taxpayer dollars. Then Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina said that Americans, quote, shouldn't be on the hook for another failing business as its competition thrives. Yes. Now you might be thinking, well, that's all well and good. But what about former lumberjack, reality star, and now head of transportation, Sean Duffy? What did he have to say? He probably agreed with the president, didn't he? Nope. He didn't sound particularly thrilled by this idea. He gave an interview to Reuters yesterday. He pointed out the potential pitfalls of not only the bailout, but also the government taking ownership of the company. He said there's been a lot of money thrown at Spirit, and they haven't found their way into profitability. And so would we just forestall the inevitable and then own that? We can't make dumb investments. A lot of good reasoning going into this, but again, it seems like in this climate, if you are in Congress, what Donald Trump wants, Donald Trump gets. And nobody is going to tell the emperor, we don't need to bail out a budget airline. We don't need the government owning a failing budget airline. But it has a lot of bankruptcies, and that's something Trump is familiar with, so maybe that's why he's so drawn to it. They've only had 2 bankruptcies. I can get them up to 4 bankruptcies if we're lucky. All right. What other S do we need to know, Parker? Well, Public Service Commission to hold a hearing in Madison today on We Energy's plan for data centers. Oh, once again, data center conversation. It is the big topic of interest here in Wisconsin and across the globe. Big data centers are in the public spotlight, local opposition from opponents, a referendum vote last week in Port Washington, and they played a role in races for local office in communities around the state. Now there's growing concern about their energy and water use and who is going to pay for all that. We've talked about that a lot. Now, according to the Citizens Utility Board, 2 data center projects in Port Washington and Racine County will double the energy demand for We Energies. 2 projects, they say, equal the same amount of power as all 1.1 million customers use today. Yikes. So there were some hearings, if you remember, in March, and news coverage was there regarding data centers and whether they would pay their own way for their energy needs. The tech companies were saying the right things, as was We Energies, but the consumer advocate utility watchdog always said that the devil is in the details. So the PSC is voting today in Madison on We Energy's plan for all of this. CUB is saying the plan has gotten a bit better along the way in response to pushback from them and other groups like Walnut Way in Milwaukee, Clean Wisconsin, the Sierra Club, Wisconsin Industrial Energy Group, among others. But key loopholes remain, highlighting the importance of the decision. Today's decision could impact the rate case filing that We Energies came out with on April 1st. For example, right now, We Energies' plan would have non-tech companies, meaning you and I, and companies like local businesses, small businesses, Harley-Davidson, Miller Brewing, paying 25% for the $6 to $8 billion in new power plants, including multiple new fossil fuel power plants with enviro impacts needed for these massive projects. The key glaring issue in the case is who's going to pay for billions in new transmission lines for the new data centers. It got high-profile attention in the White House last month. Tech companies were meeting with the president and signed a ratepayer protection pledge. It's non-binding, of course. It sounds good, sure it does. But to live up to the spirit of that pledge, in a fix to what was proposed last year, We Energies and the ATC at the last minute came up with a proposed fix, which they described in their April 1st case application proposal. So we'll be watching that. It's taking place in Madison today. And I don't know. I don't think this is going away. The talk about the big data centers. I liked what we talked about yesterday. If we missed it, we talked about this new proposal for data centers in the ocean that have no tethering, no power lines. They are wave powered. The power or the signal and the data that is generated there is shot up into space to satellites. If you missed that and you're like, wow, that does sound kind of interesting, I'd like to hear about that. Hey, you know what you could do? You could go download our podcast, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie, on Spotify. There you go, Parker. You like how I slid that plug in there? Nice and easy.
You always slide it in nice and easy.
No, I slide it in nice and easy.
Smooth.
Wow. Parker, you've taken a turn. All right, there's one more thing in stuff you need to know. Well, no, two things. One, Parker was a little creepy right there. And two, the Trump administration has reclassified medical marijuana. This broke while we were on the air yesterday. We have a few more details on it. So the acting attorney general yesterday signed an order reclassifying state-licensed medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug. That's a major policy shift long sought by advocates who said that cannabis should never have been treated like heroin by the federal government. Yes, even non-cannabis activists, I believe, knew that was a horrible categorization. The order signed by Todd Blanche does not legalize marijuana for medical and recreational use under federal law, but it does change the way that it's regulated, shifting licensed medical marijuana from Schedule I, reserved for drugs without medical use and with a high potential for abuse, to the less strictly regulated Schedule III. It also gives licensed medical marijuana operators a major tax break and eases some barriers to researching cannabis, which the tax breaks will help all of the stores, dispensary kind of places here in Wisconsin. So that hits close to home, but it does that for everyone now. Now, the Trump administration also said it was jumpstarting the process for reclassifying marijuana more broadly, setting a hearing to begin in late June. Trump told his administration in December to work as quickly as possible to reclassify marijuana. On Saturday, as the Republican president signed an unrelated executive order about psychedelics, he seemed to express frustration that it was taking too long, which is that's par for the course for him. Frustrated. I'm interested. It took too long. I'm not interested. Blanche's action largely legitimizes medical marijuana programs in the 40 states that have adopted them. It sets up an expedited system for state-licensed medical marijuana producers and distributors to register with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, and it makes clear that cannabis researchers won't be penalized for obtaining state-licensed marijuana or marijuana-derived products for use in their work. And it grants state-licensed medical marijuana companies a windfall by allowing them, for the first time, to deduct business expenses on their federal taxes. So all good. I don't know who the president is trying to court. First it's psychedelics, now it's medical cannabis. Sounds like Timothy Leary is in the Oval Office. We'll all be microdosing. We'll be tripping. We'll be just enjoying ourselves. I'll be listening to The Dead. The national anthem is going to be replaced by trucking, and it's just going to be fun, Parker.
Wow.
Yeah, the youngsters must be excited about this. The youngsters and the oldsters who are still enjoying their cannabis and their hippie ways. They partake. Yes. Now, listen, I've been a long proponent. I have no beef with recreational marijuana. I'm down with that. If you want to use recreational cannabis in whatever form, that's for you to decide. Everybody has their own thing they like to do. I have been a proponent of medical marijuana for years and years and years because I've seen firsthand the positive effect it can have for people who are suffering from a myriad of diseases, from arthritis pain to cancer, helping people get their appetites back, just making their lives more bearable. And I thought what was criminal to me was the fact that it was not available everywhere, that it was still categorized as a Section 1 narcotic. That was ridiculous. But that is all changing, and that's good. We need to change it up. Speaking of having a little toke and maybe then being woke and having to eat something because you got the munchies, what children's cereal do you still enjoy? Big news from Kellogg's yesterday. We'll get to all of it after this. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning, 8:23 here on Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie will rejoin us on Monday. 8:22-23 on a Friday, maybe a little late for your kids' breakfast. They're probably on their way to school. But as you poured them some cereal this morning, were you eyeing it going, man, I still love a good kid's cereal. I want some Cocoa Krispies. I want a Cookie Crisp. I'm trying to remember other kids' cereals. I was a big
Crunch.
Well, listen. I know that one because that was going to be that's my answer to this question.
Okay.
What children's cereal do you still enjoy? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I would house a box of Captain Crunch, even though, to be honest, they changed the non-nutritive cereal varnish that they put on top of Captain Crunch. That's a Christmas Vacation reference. But they have changed it. I love Captain Crunch. I was also, as a kid, I was a Fruit Loops guy, a Captain Crunch guy, and a Cocoa Krispies guy. That was my top three. If I had to throw a Mount Rushmore on there to add a fourth, it would be Apple Jacks.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, though, a dry box of Frosted Flakes. No milk, just eating Frosted Flakes like popcorn. Forget about it. You know what? That bumps Apple Jacks.
Right,
I'm out. That's the four. Parker, what's your children's cereal? I don't want to hear from people go, I eat Total. I'm a huge fan of grape nuts.
I like a Raisin Bran.
Wow.
No. Not that old. Come on now.
No. I hope not.
Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms have a special place for me.
Are you?
I know.
I've never. You know what? I've never had Lucky Charms.
Really?
I know they're magically delicious.
Wow. I thought you were going to come at me because a lot of people think that the marshmallows suck.
No, I've never had them. They were not.
Okay.
They were never on the. I guess none of my brothers or I ever really had a desire for them. They were never in our house, and I've never had. And Molly, I don't know if we bought them from. I don't remember what cereal Molly ate.
Your house was not magical enough.
Well, no, there was not a lot of magic there, Parker. We didn't believe in whimsy.
Well,
Whimsy's for losers.
You could have used some of the leprechaun in your house, I think.
We had enough Irish in there. That's
true. I can't believe you want to do it.
Yeah, but that leprechaun brought alcoholism and depression. That was that's how much that we embraced our Irish roots that
Different
way.
Leprechaun.
Yes, it's a different leprechaun. This was a leprechaun that got caught and was not happy about it at all. The reason I bring this up is because Kellogg's yesterday said that they're going to start including toys with some of their breakfast cereals for the first time in over 10 years. Welcome back. The whole reason to be a kid is to try to get the toys out of the cereal box. So starting this Sunday, special edition boxes of Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks. Wow. All my I may have to revert back to being a kid again. And Corn Pops. Corn Pops were boring. They will have plastic toys shaped like characters from Disney Pixar's Toy Story 5, which hits theaters in June. Now, for those of us of a certain age, we remember when plastic toys were the mainstay in breakfast cereal. They gradually disappeared because manufacturers tried to cut costs. Boo-hoo. And consumers started to worry that kids were going to choke. Come on. This is where I do sound like an old man. Toughen up. We all grew up with finding little toy things, little erasers shaped like Quisp or Quake or Captain Crunch in there, the Trix Bunny stuff. We all did. None of us choked. And if we did, we learned how to bend over a chair so our parents could slam us in there and Heimlich the toy right out of our gullets. So Kellogg said they thought Toy Story 5 was a good fit for the reintroduction. I'm all for that. Now, Parker, are you too young to remember toys in the cereal box?
I'm pretty sure I've gotten toys in a cereal box.
Okay. There were two camps of how to get those toys out of the box. And I'm wondering, first of all, I'm still wondering what's your go-to children's cereal, even as an adult. And now, which camp did you fall into? Did you fall into the pour the whole box of cereal into a bowl to get the toy out? I guess there were three camps. One, to be patient and wait till the cereal was gone. What a weirdo. Or two, what I would do, press in on the ends of the box to pop it open a little bit and then reach my dirty, grubby hand all the way down to the bottom, swirling the cereal until I got grip of the toy and then pull it out. And hope that then I had to stand and shake the box so it got back into its original shape. And whichever one of my brothers got to the toy first, that's whose dirty, grubby mitts went down in the cereal. And you know what? We didn't care about sanitation. We didn't care about the spread of diseases because it was one house. Who cared? We went for the toy. I was a squeeze the box guy. Parker, where did you fall on this?
I don't remember really. I think that would be my strategy as well, though, Brian. I think I would also just find it.
Yeah.
That is my goal.
What, are you going to wait?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to wait.
You can't wait. And pouring it out into a bowl, then you got to ask your mom for a bowl, and she's yelling that, why'd you pour the cereal out? And then you go to pour it back in, and it spills everywhere, or some of it goes outside the bag and just rests in the box and gets all stale. Yeah. It's a hassle. Spit on your hand to get some, stick them on there, get it down in that bag, spit it around.
Don't spit on your hand. Please.
No, don't spit on your hand.
Don't do that.
Again, I've said this many times on the show. If you take my health advice, I'm not responsible because I'm not a doctor. And if you listen to me, do it at your own risk. Don't come back at us with some sort of lawsuit because you get hepatitis or something because somebody spit on their hand and grabbed your cereal.
All advice from Daybreak comes with a grain of salt.
Yes, please, please. You're all intelligent enough to figure it out. Parker, this you won't remember. They used to put record albums on the like singles, 45s on the back of the cereal box, and you would cut them out and then try to play them on a turntable.
That sounds really cool. I bet it never worked, though.
It never worked. It was really cool. And that was the only one you had to wait for, or you had to cut the back out of the cereal box. So you had to wait, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get this 45 by the Archies. And then you'd cut it out, and you'd go take it down to your little cheapy record player, and you put it on, and you'd go, never worked. Cool idea, never worked. Oh, my goodness. After the news, we're going to talk to Mike Clemens, Civic Media sports reporter, about the draft. We got a lot of Packers questions. Parker has some, Frank might have some, I have some, you might have some. If you have a question for Mike, text it in, 855-75-CIVIC, and we'll ask it during this next segment here on Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
Good morning. Welcome back. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak. Glad you're with us. A big sports weekend. The NFL draft is happening in Pittsburgh. The Packers have their first pick tonight. This is the first time in 40 years that they have not had a first-round pick, so very exciting. They have one pick in this round. We're going to talk about that and so much more with Mike Clemens, Civic Media's sports reporter, who's having a very not only busy day but busy weekend. Mike, we appreciate your time this morning. Welcome.
You bet, Brian. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Before we get into the draft, let's start with the other big news from Milwaukee yesterday. New coach, Taylor Jenkins. He started out as an assistant with the Bucks. The last 7 years, he's been the coach in Memphis. So why him, and what do you think this means for Giannis?
Yeah, when Doc Rivers decided to step down after the last game of the season, and the beat writers, put out the proverbial list of potential candidates, Taylor Jenkins was at the top of the list, probably because, as you said, he had a cup of coffee with the Milwaukee Bucks, has been a head coach, and I honestly thought that the Bucks, first of all, to me, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in terms of structure with the ownership, if John Horst is going to be back, and then most importantly, what the Giannis situation is going to be. And I thought that maybe they might wait until something else happened with other assistants, with teams that are currently in the playoffs, etc. But they met with Taylor Jenkins last week, and the word came out yesterday that he's been offered the job, and they're finalizing a contract. So Taylor Jenkins is from the Dallas, Texas area, went to Penn State, did not play college basketball, got a gig as an intern with the Spurs. He got hired by Mike Budenholzer when he put that staff together with the Atlanta Hawks, and they went to the playoffs 3 or 4 times. And then Coach Bud brought this young man with him to Milwaukee. The first season, I think it was 2019, they won 60 games. Remember that? And they flamed out during the playoffs, but they won 60 games that year. And from that, he got the head coaching job as the Memphis Grizzlies, probably only 34, 35 years old at that time. Coached them for 6 seasons, went to the playoffs 3 times with them, and people were shocked when he was fired last year in March with just like 9 regular games left. The ownership wanted him to put in a different kind of an offense, and he wasn't going to do that. And so he's been on the beach. So he's the new head coach. Where this and how this plays into the Giannis, will he stay or will he go scenario, remains to be seen.
All right. Well, let's turn our attention to the Packers. They have their first pick tonight. They have 1 pick in the second round. They pick 52nd, about 7:35 tonight. As they're getting ready, because as I mentioned when I was introducing you, Mike, first time in 40 years they haven't had a first-round pick. So now they're waiting for their second-round pick. What are you hearing from the front office as they get ready for tonight?
That the first round went pretty much the way they thought it would. And I'd heard from a pretty good source early in the week that, because the Chiefs had made a comment last week that there could be a lot of trading in the first round because, quite frankly, it's not that good of a draft class. Okay. And so they picked 32 players last night, and the Packers only thought about maybe 15 of those guys were worth a first-round pick. Okay. So that means unless they were crazy about somebody, they didn't see the value of giving up 2 or 3 picks or whatever else to get up into that round, and they came off the board pretty much that way. And Brian Gutekunst, we were told maybe one of the other scouts would come down after no picks in the first round, but then actually Goody came down and talked to us last night. It was a pretty good discussion, and he kind of confirmed, the board kind of went the way we thought it would, and we only thought there was about 15 players worth it. Now, what he does tonight, I can't tell you what he's going to do exactly at 52, but I can tell you that what he looks at is a horizontal board, not a vertical board like what folks that follow the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. They follow in order 1, 2, 3, 4 on through to 257 is how players should come off. It's a horizontal board, so that means you set up your board in terms of importance of position from left to right, like quarterback and left tackle and edge rusher, etc. And that way, if you go into a weekend and say, okay, at some point we really need a safety, and you've graded all these players, and you've determined there's maybe 6 or 7 safeties, it's anywhere from the first round to the 7th round that you're interested in, then you see that pocket. So if most of the safeties are gone now, and it's still sitting there in the 3rd round, there's 1 safety left, and he's in the 7th round, you're like, well, I'm not going to use a 3rd-round pick on that. Maybe I'll pick up the phone and we can trade down, and that guy might still be there later in the draft, but we won't give up as much value. We can actually pick a couple more players to help us. That's the way he looks at the board. So, in terms of predicting who's they're going to take 19 picks into tonight is anybody's guess. One other indication, though, Brian, is this. They started these 30 visits that they call them. I think it started happening during COVID. Yeah. So after the football season, and then after the combine, and then the pro days where they go to the colleges and actually watch these players work out, there's this period leading up to the draft where you can interview up to 30 players, either bring them into Green Bay. A lot of these are done over a Zoom call. So we know pretty much who some of those players are that they talked to this spring. And here's a list of players that had previously done 30 visits, like their now treasured defensive lineman, Devontae Wyatt, defensive lineman Carl Brooks. Christian Watson did a 30 visit before they picked him. Matthew Golden, their first-round pick, their wide receiver from last year. Anthony Belton, who became their starting right guard last year. And Savion Williams, kick returner and receiver. All those guys had 30 visits. So if you take a look at that list, and so far, only one of the 30 players that the Packers interviewed this spring got taken last night. So there's plenty of guys that they're interested in that'll be on the board for Goody tonight.
Mike Clemens is the sports reporter for Civic Media. He joins us now. We're talking about the draft. All right, obviously, Mike, we're not going to predict what guy, but from the 30 interviews that they've done and by who's left on the board and the way Gutekunst looks at the, as you said, the horizontal board, where do you think the pick will go? It sounds like, from what I was reading, most of the interviews were on the defensive side of the ball. Would that be a good assumption?
Yeah, they are, and I think that's what a lot of the national people have down. There's also times where they call it subterfuge up here in Green Bay.
Fair
they like
enough.
To play with people. They like to play with people. One other thing that people have asked me about this, well, you're covering the draft. Well, aren't you in Pittsburgh? I was like, well, because you know what? It's a TV show.
Yeah.
The draft used to be at a hotel with representatives from the team with a cup of coffee and an ashtray and then just making phone calls. I mean, and it's the
You can't make money that way, Mike.
Right, they've turned it into a pageant.
Yeah.
And Gutekunst has been saying, I've already got my roster. I mean, even though we lost, Quay Walker in free agency, and we traded away Rashawn Gary and wide receiver Dontavian Wicks, I picked up this kid Sky Moore, who used to play for the Chiefs. He could be like a returner. We got Javon Hargrave, a defensive lineman from the Vikings, to help out on the defensive line. They picked up a free agent defensive back. They made a trade for Zaire Franklin from the Colts in order to help out with that linebacker crowd. So these guys that they're picking, they're all rookies to them. They think that they've pretty much got their roster set. So the next thing is this. Did you ever see that movie Draft Day? With
Yes.
Castro?
Oh, yeah.
And when it came out, a lot of the skeptical sports writers said, hogwash. And about a year after it had been out, you start talking to the NFL people, like, no, the chaos in that movie's closer than you think. So Kevin Costner's like the GM of the Cleveland Browns, and everybody thinks he's going to take the quarterback out of Wisconsin. And the last minute, he makes a big, change.
Right. Well, because nobody went to that guy's birthday party, Mike. You can't draft a QB who has no friends. We know that. We've learned that from the movies.
Yeah, and they at the end of the day, they judged character. So when we had this big pre-draft press conference with Gutekunst in their brand new, spanking, fancy media auditorium, I asked him this question about, at the end of the day, when you're on the clock, how do you make these decisions? And here's how that went.
Brian, how much has the NIL era affected your ability to determine the question, this guy needs football? And secondly, when's the last time you looked at tape of Matthew Golden before you picked him that night?
First question, I do think, quite frankly, the NIL has exposed some of that with some of these guys earlier maybe than it would have if they weren't making money. We've always really leaned on, tried to lean on guys, trying to find guys that love football, that it's more about, the competition of the game more than anything else, what comes with it. So in some ways, with these guys having the resources they have and us kind of knowing how they're using those resources and what they're doing with it can provide some insight into the guy. At the same time, they're 21, 22, 23, and if we all had that money at that age, who knows what we'd be doing, right? So I think you got to be careful of judging them too much. But I've always thought, you combine the tape kind of DNA and how they play the game with what we find out about them, we'll tell you usually, how much they love being out there and how competitive they are, and that's most important. And then your second question, I think I'll watch tape on a few guys here and there over the course of these few days now, but it's just usually just to shore something up. But with Matthew, I think it was probably about a week before the draft when I was done watching him. So he wasn't a hard one.
It's good. I mean, we hear all the time when Mike Clemens is joining us to talk the draft and other things in sports. He's the sports reporter for Civic Media. You're familiar with Mike's work. You hear him on the news all the time. So what I was going to say is we hear all the time, Mike, about these players, and we see that they're misbehaving. So it does, as much as people talk and GMs talk about character, it does really play an integral part. Once you get a guy as part of this organization, you need to know that they're going to not only perform on the field, but not embarrass the team off the field.
Yeah, and Brian, the Packers organization really treasured what Ted Thompson did for them, getting into that Super Bowl, but doing pretty good year after year and keeping them in the playoffs and pretty strong rosters. And Ted used to say at the end of the day, is the kid an athlete and does he love football? But now with this NIL period, that when you got college players, some of these guys are making $1 million a year, and some of them are deciding, I may stick around the university another year or two, make this money, and maybe I go to the NFL when I'm 24 or something, 25. Yeah. Goody has changed that verbiage. Now he's saying, do they need football? And in other words, are they like Micah Parsons, where sure you just paid him $180 million or something, but at the end of the day, he doesn't care. He wants to get every snap in that he possibly can. Those are the guys that he's looking for. I will give you one name here, okay? Here's a need. They lost Malik Willis, right, in free agency. He got paid a big deal. He's down there with Jeff Hafley at the Dolphins. So they need a backup quarterback for Jordan Love. There's a kid named Cole Payton who plays a quarterback, and I've talked to a couple of analysts. They say that would be like the next Malik Willis for you guys, that could be kind of that running quarterback and run offenses and scout team and all that.
Wow.
He's from North Dakota State. Do you know who else is from North Dakota State?
Who?
Christian Watson.
Oh, my.
So
well, maybe that's part of the subterfuge you were talking about earlier, Mike. I know you've got a lot of places you got to be, a lot of people you have to talk to. I appreciate your time. Mike Clemens, you can hear him on Civic Media talking about sports all the time. Mike, have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the TV show Draft. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. We'll be back with more. It's Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
It's Dairyland Diaries, a look at local stories around Wisconsin.
Yeah, it is Friday. We're going to jump around Wisconsin and bring you some uplifting, happy stories. We're going to end the week on a nice note. Stories from around the state that are going to make you smile a little bit, maybe feel a little bit warmer inside, maybe just make you say, thank God that wasn't about the administration. I know. Here's a good story. We're going to Greenville for this one. About a couple ladies who were working hard during the flood. 7 cats, a small dog, and a family with an elderly man on oxygen have Greenville residents Brittany Schmidt and Cheyenne Tyler to thank for their safety after the duo executed a series of rescues last week in New London. Right there. I like it. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? Sure. While the Wolf River flooded the small community on the Outagamie-Waupaca County line, Schmidt and Tyler researched strangers' homes for lost, confused, shivering, and scared pets, at times walking through as much as 3 feet of water. They also used kayaks, nets, kennels, a canoe, and many donated items to fuel their rescue efforts. Schmidt and Tyler were not even fazed by the fact that they're allergic to cats. They'd rescue cats anyway. They don't care. When evacuations began on April 15th, Schmidt and Tyler posted on the New London, Wisconsin Happenings Facebook group that they wanted to help in any way possible. Maybe they could temporarily house reptiles or small caged pets, they thought. But after logging about 20 miles in a 12-hour day on April 16th rescuing pets, they became the go-to duo. Word got out, strangers reached out to them, and they kept going. Turns out several pet owners, for one reason or another, had left animals behind in a rush to leave. Oh, my God, and those people were desperate for help. So Schmidt, who is a receptionist at Wolf River Veterinary Clinic, said they were collecting pet food, supplies, and toys. For more information and to help, you can call 920-982-2733 or visit the veterinary clinic on Wolf River Avenue in New London. Congratulations, ladies. Good work. I love to see people jumping in and helping out because in a lot of obviously, your priority is to get your family out. And while your pets are part of your family, sometimes in the rush, maybe you don't, or they've run away. That was one of the first rescues they did, was a cat that had panicked and taken off, and the family had to go, and they found the cat, and they got it. So very good. All right, that's diary entry number 1. Diary entry number 2. Do you have a shy, Parker, were you a shy child?
I was kind of, a little.
Kind of shy, a little withdrawn, a little afraid of strangers?
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't. You're not alone in that. A lot of kids are very shy, and nothing wrong with that. But if you're a shy kid at a children's museum and you're playing with an interactive sculpture of a fish, wow, why can't you do it all by yourself? You don't want to work at it all by yourself. So what do? You go to the Madison Children's Museum and you go to their interactive exhibits and you help your child maybe become a little less shy. The goal is for this to come up with the answer, what do I do if somebody else comes up? Why do I have to work by myself? The answer is work with someone else and maybe even meet a new friend. Psychologist Kristen Schutz studies child social development at the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Weissman Center. She puts her research into practice by helping design museum exhibits that encourage kids to work together. She develops the exhibits at the Madison Children's Museum, where she is also a board member. So she said social skill development is vital for children. We've all seen kids who are painfully shy, not your usual shyness, but really shy, and your heart aches for them because they can't make those connections. And according to Schutz, we're such social creatures that connecting with other people is really fundamental to our success. She points toward research showing benefits in academic achievement and mental and physical well-being in an interview with WPR. For young children, she said, playtime can be a key to learning social skills. That's why there's been a movement in kindergarten to incorporate play into the daily curriculum so that children get used to working with other people and interacting and having fun. Now, according to Schutz, this new exhibit that she built at the Madison Children's Museum can just be an invitation to talk to somebody, but it can also help build social connections when two people move their bodies together and collaborate toward a common goal. That can strengthen existing relationships and also help build new ones. So if you're thinking, well, my kid's a little shy, maybe I should do this, go to the Madison Children's Museum. It's open Wednesday to Sunday, 9 to 4. Free Thursday nights, 4 to 8. Can't beat that. Or go to madisonchildrensmuseum.org. So another happy story. What about this? A doctor who has been part of emergency flights for over 32 years, Mike Abernethy, has the longest continuous service of any emergency medicine faculty at UW-Madison School of Medicine and Public Health. According to the university, he's been with the UW Health Med Flight since 1992. Earlier this month, he retired from UW Health's Med Flight Emergency Helicopter Medical Transport Service after spending 34-plus years in the field, transporting more than 4,000 patients. Most recently, he's worked out of UW Health's Janesville Med Flight Base. That opened in 2024. UW Health has regional med flight bases in Janesville, Mineral Point, and Portage to serve the state. He says, I haven't found anyone yet as far as physicians who have been doing it longer than I have. That was when he was just sitting at the kitchen table in UW Health's Janesville base. His interest in medicine began when he was 15. He volunteered as an ambulance attendant because that, back in the day, was how paramedics were done. He says he'll still be flying occasionally, but only on the day shift. So that is that. Congratulations to Mike Abernethy for his retirement and 34 years of unbelievable service to the people of Wisconsin, medevacing them out. He said the 24-hour shifts, though, and working nights was really taking its toll, so that's why he decided to retire. So good for him. All right, that's it. We're done. Show's over. Week's ending. Jamie will be back with us on Monday. That'll be music to everybody's ears, and I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, go to Spotify, subscribe to Daybreak with Brian and Jamie to get all our podcasts, visit our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook, and download the free Civic Media app. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Parker. And most of all, thank you for being with us. Have a great weekend. As I said, I'm Brian Noonan. This is the Civic Media Network.